Good afternoon. I am Annette Scippio, council member for the East Ward, and I am so delighted to welcome you to this wonderful occasion today. It is so symbolic for this neighborhood, but it's the kind of thing that all of us should embrace, which is our history. How we celebrate our history is due to how much information you have about your history. And this particular land that we're on now and what we're doing today is a significant part of the history of the city of Winston-Salem. Before I continue my remarks, I'd just like to say that Mayor Alan Jones sends his greetings. He's unable to be here this afternoon because of some other issues he's having out of town. And of course, we all know our mayor, he loves coming to these kinds of events and celebrating our local history. So we wish him well where he is and hope he'll have very much success in the opportunity he has right now. But this particular cemetery is very unique. It sits in the first African American neighborhood of homeowners. The land was platted by the Moravian Church for African Americans to buy the land and to build houses. Our very first African American neighborhood. And if you know a little bit about history, during those times, things were segregated. So many African Americans who died were buried in private cemeteries. Some of them, their graves were unmarked, and some of them could afford to have marked graves. This particular cemetery is very reminiscent of African American neighborhoods in many southern cities. But the unique thing here is that generations have passed. And the generation of someone I will speak to about in a minute had in their heart to restore this cemetery. At one time, the cemetery was part of a Methodist Episcopal church that was here in the community. That church was displaced. Part of that displacement came when Highway 52 was incepted and constructed. The church no longer existed. And with no one owning this land that was living, it went in disrepair. It was forgotten. But today, we're here to unveil a historic marker that this site was chosen by our Historic Resources Commission. I happen to have gone to that presentation the day that so many markers were requested for application, and there were so many wonderful possibilities. And I really didn't know whether this cemetery would make it. But I would say this cemetery and one other site in the East Ward around African American history were chosen to be the markers for this year. So we're very, very pleased and blessed that it's here. And what we're doing today is going to unveil that marker. We're going to follow the program that's outlined, and at this time, we have with us Council Member Vivian Joyner of the Southeast Ward, which is just the South Ward, which is just connected to us, and where Old Salem lives, because this is the tie. This community is so connected to Old Salem. So she's going to bring us a few remarks, and after that, we'll continue with the program.
Good afternoon, folks. Councilmember Scippio, thank you so much for including me. I feel privileged and honored to be able to stand on this ground in this space. It is not lost on me that Juneteenth, the celebration, is more than just a day, but the fact that we've been this weekend in heightened awareness of the pain, the fortitude, the struggle, the advancement, and the chains that bind this community, not just a people, but bind this community together. It is my deep honor to stand before you as a Black woman who has benefited from what we sit upon. Ms. Maurice, thank you. Thank you for all the years that you have encouraged my partner and I in our endeavor. Thank you for all that you've done in this neighborhood. We have to remember as a community, what happens to one impacts all of us, the good and the bad. We have to stand together. As someone tries to erase the history of this, to tell us that we're going to unveil it today and have to take it down next week, possibly, we have to fight against injustice wherever injustice is. They could not have been in this space for naught. It is our responsibility. It is our stewardship. It is our call, each and every one of us. Thank you, Councilmember Scippio, for all that you've done to make this day happen. Thank you so much, community, for bearing the heat. Our privilege is that when this is done, we can go into some air conditioning. They could not.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Joyner. What an asset we have on our city council with our newly elected council member. We appreciate all of our council members and those who serve with us in the public arena. And I do see a few, Mr. Dan Bessie, our county commissioner. I see Ms. Shay Woodbury, county commissioner. Do I see any other elected officials? Okay. And we have from our city management, I see Assistant Manager Rao. Oh, Assistant Manager Aaron King. He's our acting manager right now, guys. So he's Assistant Manager today. And I think that's all of our senior staff. At this time, we will continue with our remarks, and we'll have a longtime resident, Ms. Chenita Johnson, who's serving on the Historic Resources Commission. And, you know, sometimes when people volunteer, they're much more popular but also more important as residents who serve the community on our commissions and committees, because it's through them that major decisions are being made. They're made at the committee level before they even come to the council. So I want to ask anyone who has served on the Resources Commission and are currently serving, just raise your hand. We want to thank you for all the work you're doing. Chenita.
Hello. Can everybody hear me? My name is Chenita Johnson, and I am a member of the Forsyth Historic Resources Commission. And I'd just like to say that I do have some ties, as with every other African American that was born in Winston-Salem and in Forsyth County, to this Happy Hill community. My grandmother's father lived here. His house was, he had a shotgun house 3 houses from the corner on Alder Street. And he lived in this community, he worshiped in this community, and when he passed away, he was buried here. However, I found out that he was moved because of 52. But we do have those ties. And thank you, Ms. Maurice. On behalf of the commission and the Historic Marker Committee, I'd like to thank you all for being here today. It is hot, but we are here because we are all dedicated. The first local historic markers were installed here in Forsyth County in 2001. To date, we have placed over 75 markers throughout Forsyth County. Historic markers help the residents remember about important places, important events, and people within our collective communities. So this is why these are important. And these markers identify a place on the landscape and in history that should not be forgotten. And we know that Happy Hill, the cemetery, must not be forgotten. Today we celebrate this Happy Hill Cemetery. And as the marker says, Happy Hill Cemetery, an African American burial ground, was established after the Freedmen's Community was founded across the creek from Salem in 1872. Members of Happy Hill's founding families are buried here, along with later residents of the neighborhood and in the city. Approximately 1,500 death records from 1895 until 1965 name Happy Hill as the place of burial but only 115 or so of these markers are visible. Only 115 out of 1,500. In 1966, 200 sets of remains were removed to Nat Watkins' property behind Oak Grove Baptist Church in Walkertown. And that was when construction of US 52 claimed the east end of this cemetery. Afterwards, descendants and the community members began restoration efforts in 2009. We would like to thank Ms. Maurice Pitts Johnson and her family for applying for this marker and bringing publicity to this important part of local history. I would also like to recognize her grandson, Brian Bonner, who made the presentation to the Historic Recognition Committee and was instrumental in telling the story of the importance of such a sacred space for all generations. We also thank the Happy Hill Association, if you're here, for your support of this marker as well. So thank you everyone once again, and thank you for joining us here for this celebration.
Guess what? It's quite warm in this lovely sun, and we love the sun. But we're going to ask Chenita, if you'd like, you can sit over there in the shade. And Brian, you can keep the umbrella until you get ready to speak. Okay, so you can be cool. And then we'll all sit down in the shade. You know, this would not be happening The cemetery would not get this recognition, would not have gotten restored if there was never a champion for that activity. Every wonderful thing that we remember in our life happened because someone championed it and wanted to make a difference. They had a vision. This community, when I was a young girl, was where the first public housing for Winston-Salem was built in 1949. And it was brick houses all around. It was very dense. People who came initially here have wonderful stories to tell. Some because they had moved from parts of East Winston that were really shanties. It was deplorable housing. They had outside toilets that people had to go to, because that's what was available at that time. So coming here in public housing was a big step up for people. Running water inside toilets. One would think that those humble beginnings would make people feel less than. But the community was vibrant. People worked, raised their children. They had aspirations. And there was so much love here, so much community. Families took care of other family members and children. It was safe. Things changed over time. And Happy Hill eventually got a reputation of a place that if you're about the business of doing anything, you would not want to live here. A lot of crime. The projects became true projects. I was blessed to attend Anderson High School, junior and senior high school. I also went to Diggs Elementary School when it was elementary school. And there were so many wonderful teachers and staff members at those schools. So although it may have been one of the economically distressed areas in the city, we were so loved, we were so encouraged, we were taught so many wonderful things about becoming contributing adults. So underneath it was a spirit of possibility, a spirit of hope. And that is still here. We've seen the transitions here, 2000, when they took down the projects and they rebuilt the structures you see over there, subsidized housing. They did not build the single-family homes. It's been 24 years since single-family homes were built here, but they're under construction. Finally, a vision of hope and a vision of opportunity. Where does that come from? Well, it comes from people like Miss Maurice Johnson. Ms. Johnson, we thank you. I knew Miss Johnson when I was a little girl, a younger girl, and I knew her mother. Her mother taught at 14th Street Elementary School. That generation was a generation like none other, who cared about the children, cared about themselves, taught everybody how to seek the best within yourself. And Miss Maurice has been on that field of serving this community for many, many years in an amazing way. The way of being soft and gentle, but strong, filled with grace and hope and possibility. She was the one, she modeled the people who raised us. And today, Miss Maurice, I say thank you on behalf of our community, on behalf of our citizens in Winston-Salem. Thank you for the legacy that you are leaving for us to benefit from. Thank you for remembering what it was like over here when you were growing up and trying to bring that back today. So all of us who have seen the richness of living in a community of love, one of the things we are commissioned to do is try to keep that going, to plant that seed of hope and opportunity, no matter how hard it may seem. And don't give up. Miss Maurice is in her 90s. God has blessed her with good health, good mind, and she's still pushing it, doing what she needs to do. So just because you get old doesn't mean you're supposed to stop. That's when you put it in high gear and keep going. And so she's a role model for all of us. But Miss Johnson's been blessed with beautiful children who love her, and her daughter's here. So raise your hand. What a blessing to have your mom. And her seed is Brian Bonner. So Brian, the generation skipped the daughter for historic preservation. She told me that earlier. And it's landed right here on Brian, who is anointed with the vision to preserve this cemetery. So Brian, I invite you to come and give remarks.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Bonner, and I'm a descendant of Columbus and Alice Pitts, who settled in Happy Hill in 1887 and are buried in Happy Hill Cemetery. Pitt Street, which is right here, is named after our family. My grandmother, Maurice Pitts Johnson, has been heavily involved in the community and has organized and taken part in several cleanups for the cemetery. We were fortunate to have ancestors who kept a treasure trove of history regarding the Happy Hill community and beyond, including deeds, old photographs, letters from the 1870s, and a written family history by my great-grandfather, Walter Pitts. These artifacts got me interested in history and genealogy as a child, an interest that has continued to this day. So it was a pleasure when I was asked by Martha Hartley in 2023 to take part in the Hidden Town Fellowship. This internship placed a focus on Happy Hill community, particularly as it relates to Old Salem and the preservation of Happy Hill going forward. It was during this internship that I uncovered a grave that had been lost to my family, the original gravestone of my great-great-grandmother, Alice. And in that moment, I felt like my ancestors were sort of leading me to this moment of preservation. I had the opportunity to deliver a presentation to the Historic Marker Committee recounting the history of Happy Hill and its significance to Winston-Salem. Fortunately, our efforts paid off, and we were approved for this historic marker. Quite a few people have been involved in shining a light on the Happy Hill community over the years. So thank you to everyone who played a part in making this day possible, including my grandmother, Maurice Pitts Johnson. Thank you.
And Brian, we're so happy for you. Thank you for your comments and remarks. And we know that you'll always be connected here and that you're the go-to man from now on. You know that. Sometimes you don't always know what your purpose is in life, but it just falls on you. So this is for you. Right now, One of the things that's also been revived here in the Happy Hill community is a neighborhood association. And most of that association is made up of people who grew up here, who've lived here, whose family lived here. And they're on the road to bringing more positive change to this community, as well as making sure that the history of Happy Hill is not lost. And at this time, we're going to have remarks from Tonya Sheffield, who's their president.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me try that again. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, it's hot, but we're here. I want to thank Councilmember Scippio and Ms. Vivian Joyner. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate your words. Powerful, and yes, you know I love you anyway. So, this has been a journey. Let me just ask real quick. How many people are current residents or former residents of Happy Hill? Can I get some hands? Thank you. Thank you for being here. We honor you. This is for you and for your ancestors. And because of the dedicated research conducted by Ms. late Judy Stanley Cardwell in 2012, we now know the names and the history of the 1,500 individuals who are buried here in this cemetery. And through her hard work, she's no longer with us, and through her hard work, we can lift her name in gratitude because of this work. Her research was a cornerstone of the vital work carried out in Happy Hill by the Rural Initiative Project Incorporated under the leadership of Angelo Franceschina and Gregory Hairston. Are you guys here today? One of them. Thank you. Thank you. So, Ms. Scippio talked a little bit. I'm sorry, I want to acknowledge also County Commissioner Ms. Malashay Woodbury. She is a former resident of Happy Hill, for those who don't know. Councilmember Bessie, thank you. And there are many other people I wanted to thank real quick before I get into this. I want to thank Matthew Dolge of PTRC. He is the reason why we have the list of names of people buried here, based off of Ms. Caldwell's list. I want to thank Tim Gallagher because he has been a connector and supporting the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association in so many ways for the past couple of years. I appreciate you. Definitely Rabbi Charlie. Thank you for always listening to me when I have some things to talk about and your guidance. I appreciate you. Ms. Maurice Pitts Johnson had help. She had a very dedicated team of people that volunteered to help clear this space. Some of them are here, and I'm acknowledging you. Yes, I am. Greg Errett. Thank you. David Gall. So he's not able to be here. I think he sent a representative. Oh, is he here? How you doing? So give me a minute, a little light here. I'm trying to make sure I don't forget anything because you know how the mind is. I'm learning to remember everything. That's my new thing. So these guys help, and there's some more people. Let me get them real quick. David Gold, Greg Errett, Kaylee Tillett, Terry Brock, Lamelia Bonner, Brian Bonner. You guys would come and help as well. You bring your mother, that's help. And they help to restore and reclaim the sacred ground here. Now, Ms. Maurice Pitts Johnson passed the baton to the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association, and our board members accepted the responsibility with great humility and with pride. We are grateful to continue this work, and I also want to, I forgot a couple of people that helped with this. Ryan Rosson of Home Depot brought his employees out here one day, and they helped. And we got that connection through Jonathan Thole, and I wanted to thank him as well. So as you can see, it took a community to do this work. And that's what, and Love Out Loud. Oh my gosh, Chuck Spong and Love Out Loud, his organization came in and helped us. And they've done wonderful things within our community. They've helped, just like Home Depot, they've helped with our garden. And they've come out here and they've helped clean some of the gravestones. And I think she mentioned that there are over 1,500 graves here. Thanks to Keith Surimer, we can identify those, and he's here as well. How you doing, Keith? We can identify those hidden graves because of his work. And we want to thank those who made it possible for us to get that done. It was greatly appreciated. And so this community that came together to do this work had unconditional love for the work and for the people of this community. There was a lot of intention in the traumas that happened to this community. So what we need is unconditional love with intention of righting those wrongs. And we can do that by supporting this community, supporting us financially with the land that is owed to us, and with the grace, because this community needs to heal first and foremost. And we're going to need that support. So I'm not going to continue with this. I want you to know that Keith Surimer is going to come up next, and he's going to share his report about the work that he did. And I appreciate you all. And one last thing is that I am also the president and the founder of the Dream School, which is an after-school and summer camp program. We did a project in 2023 because I wanted to bring awareness to what this community means. And so I trained adults that were current and former residents how to use their smartphones to capture their story about this beautiful place. And from that, I knew that we had to do a documentary because the story is unique, it's special, and deserves to be told by the people who are experiencing it, have experienced it, and that's what we're working on. And immediately following this is the fundraiser that's at Millennium Center, and you are cordially invited. You will be able to see the documentary that the adults had done, and you'll see the trailer for the new documentary that we're working on now. And like I said, we're going to need your support in telling that story because the story is important and it matters, just like this place matters, and it deserves to be preserved. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Happy Hill Neighborhood Association. The Keenan Institute played a part as well. They supported us through our arts program. Thank you, Liza.
All right, Keith, if you would come up and give your remarks.
Well, I just wanted to give a brief discussion about what we did here and what we found. My company, Sariman Associates, was awarded the contract to locate and map the burials here in the Happy Hill Cemetery. And we'd like to thank Tonya and the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association for placing their trust in us to complete this mapping project. We enacted a field campaign to identify the location of the burials that were lost to time. We used GPR, which is the gold standard for detecting potential unmarked burials. And when we collect our GPR data, what we like to do is lay out continuous grids across the cemetery. We laid out 9 grids across the cemetery, and we collect ground penetrating radar data every foot across the cemetery. So my teams were out here collecting a transect of data across just about every foot of the cemetery. In the back, where we got into some steeper terrain and woods, we were not able to do continuous grids, but we did collect another 90 transects of data back in there. Once we get the data, we take that information and we put it into a computer program that produces a three-dimensional model of all the reflections down in the subsurface. And then we go down and we examine what we're seeing in the subsurface at different depths in order to pick out and identify where there are potential unmarked burials. Our data identified 1,170 anomalies that were interpreted to be potential potential burials. 25 of these were associated with marked graves, so the total number of potential unmarked burials identified is 1,145. The high density of burials in much of the cemetery made me wonder if perhaps I was over-interpreting the data. Could there really be that many unmarked burials? But I went back and I reviewed the 3D slices. These are map views of the reflections at depth, and I can share these with you later, but I could find consistent rows, one row after another row at different depths in the data, and that verified that, yes, what we're seeing out there were indeed that many burials. And not only did we run the GPR data and then collect the GPR data and then identify the potential burials, but our work included mapping the headstones, the field stones, and other cemetery features, producing a cemetery map, which we have over here, showing the location of each of the burials. We also photographed and cataloged remnants of over 300 grave markers, including headstones, field stones, the bases of former headstones, pieces of headstones, random cut stones that we observed in the woods, as well as the curbings that surrounded some of the family cemetery plots. We produce a map showing the location of each of these features and every photograph that we took. So now you can go to that catalog, look at one of those grave markers, look at the map, and you know where it is located in the cemetery. And then finally, our team placed a magnetic nail at the location of each potential unmarked burial so that they can be relocated in the future if, yeah, and I think there might be some plans to do some other formal marking of the graves in the future. So they're not going to be lost to time anymore. They're marked. Over my career, we've done hundreds of GPR surveys, and we find that the effectiveness of these GPR surveys is dependent on the cultural practices of memorializing those who have passed. Here at Happy Hill, we found a very well organized layout of the burial plots. The neat rows of unmarked burials imaged in the GPR data indicates a very consistent burial practices. Something that was new to us, though, were the very deep grave depressions that you can observe along the southern edge of the cemetery if you go back to the fence between here and the housing development beyond that. But we were told by some local informants that when the churches assigned burial plots in the early days, that each family was assigned a burial plot, and that burial plot would be used for more than one member of the family. So over time, as the ground settled, that would account for these deep depressions that we found in many of these burials back along the southern border. But I'll be around to answer any questions, or if anybody wants to see some really nice example of what we see in the ground penetrating radar data, I have that here as well. But I, again, would like to thank Tonya and the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association for the opportunity to assist with mapping the cemetery. Thank you.
we are almost at the point of unveiling the marker. However, we want to give anyone here an opportunity to share anything on your heart that you're burning to share with us. So, Martha.
Thank you, Councilmember Scippio. I was just standing out there and being so grateful for this day and remembered that it was 15 years ago this summer that Ms. Johnson reached out to Old Salem Archaeology for help here at this cemetery. And back then, this was a tangle. You couldn't see any of this, and she couldn't even find her parents' markers. And so 15 years ago, she came to seek careful academic location here and clearing. Several years prior to that, some heavy machinery had been in here and had broken many of the markers and gouged the land. And Ms. Johnson knew that this was a serious historic place and it needed serious historic attention. So she reached out to my husband, Michael Hartley. Dr. Hartley is standing back there, and he advised Ms. Johnson on the appropriate way to take care of this place. And so that next March in 2010, she came to us in 2009. In 2010, in March, they launched the first public cleaning, and Ms. Johnson, I believe that 75 people came. And it was the launching of that, and since that time, she has orchestrated monthly cleanings of this cemetery. So I just want to underscore her wisdom in seeking careful care for this place, and understanding its significance historically, and that it deserves that kind of attention. So thank you, Ms. Johnson, and thank you for sharing Brian with me 2 years ago. He is now the keeper of the burial list and is the one, as you said, Councilmember Scippio, the next generation to see it onward. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Martha. And that was Martha Hartley of Old Salem. She has helped us tremendously in documenting the history of this wonderful community. So thank you, Martha, for that. And now, Ms. Shay Woodbury.
Thank you, Councilwoman Scippio, and good afternoon. I am so thankful to the Pitts family for making sure, and of course the matriarch who is here, for making sure that we can gather today in community. And I think it is so divine that we're able to be here on Juneteenth weekend because that's what Happy Hill historically was about, being happy to be free. And Africans who were formerly enslaved able to come and build a community based on freedom. I would just like to say that this community meant so much for my family because as a single mother, my mother, Patricia Schweitzer, at the time having 5 children, this place enabled her to come and have a family in a safe community, a community that helped her to take care of her children, and for my mother to be able to become a nurse. So she came to, of course, Happy Hill Projects at the time to build a family that enabled us as 5 children to be safe while she went to school, and we are forever grateful for the Happy Hill community. I would be remiss if I didn't say my brothers and sisters, John, Sam, Netta, Tammy, and of course, Lil Shay Shay. Don't say that name ever again, but that's what I was known as in Happy Hill, Shay Shay, but I graduated out of that name. But it is such a privilege and honor to be before you, and I thank you so much for allowing me to be here and to serve in this community. And lastly, I just want to say something that Tonya, and I appreciate Tonya Sheffield's leadership here in the Neighborhood Association. She talked about needing support to continue to sustain this effort and to build upon this effort. And I tell citizens that who you elect on city council and county commission, that is how you get some of your projects done. So as we think about those who we want to put in position, think about those who are connected to the community and connected to those things that you care most about, okay? So thank you so much.
Hold on, he's coming. Sit right there. I also want to recognize Chris Leak, who's the chairman of our City County Planning Board, another wonderful civic volunteer. Come on. Now, introduce yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everybody. One more time. Good afternoon, everybody. Don't let the heat get to you. We pushing through. We pushing through. My name is Kevin Mosley. I'm a graduate of North Carolina A&T State University with a degree in liberal studies, concentration in African American studies with a minor in music. I'm gonna be very brief, but I just wanted to share with you how big this moment is, not only for us as a community, but my family as well. That's my mom and my sister right there. Okay. I heard somebody get a phone call. I looked away and they were gone. They was both wearing something different. But it's that type of resilience and effort that keeps this community going. Over yonder is Rise Ebenezer Missionary Baptist Church, and that is the main church that's kept Happy Hill grounded. And, you know, I'm just looking around. I'm just really happy, and I'm really glad that this historical site is being preserved, because every time I drove up the hill, I still see that store over there. You just get the best candy over there. But I just want to thank you all. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you, Happy Hill Garden, and thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, everybody. My proper name is Ibn Darrell. In Arabic, it means I'm the son of my mother, whose name was Darrell. Darrell is also the house. And so I'm just honored to be a representative of her and my tribe, my family, my lineage. And it's an honor to be here. I'm also on the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association board. So I'm dedicated to doing this work. When you look at the etymology of words, Carolina is our nationality. My great-grandmother, she's from Patrick County, Virginia, and they came down here by way of Stokes County, Guilford County, and we're of the original tribes that's of these counties and of this territory. So one of the things that, and she was born in 1842. Her name was Sophia Adams, okay? And her history starts with slave. But when you look at the name of slave, it's actually a nationality within itself, the Slavic people, right? But we're Carolinians. Our bloodline has been here. You can look it up on the records past 1655. We have Slaveville that's on the coast of the Carolinas. We had shipping ports. Before we were slaves, we had nationalities. So we have to look at the origins of the nationalities of the people who's buried here. Not only did they have nationalities, but they had titles of nobility that were stripped from us, just like they stripped these grave sites from us without our consent. So we're here to restore that, and we're making sure that the bloodlines and the descendants are heard and that they're felt and that their legacies is documented, and we're documenting our history. That's so very, very, very important, to document your family's history. That's how you restore your nation. That's how you preserve your nation. And that's what our title is. I don't want no other title but a restorian, not a historian. This ain't his story. This is our story. And we're here to restore it and to preserve it. And I'm honored to be here amongst the people who started this community, who built this village. This was our tribal culture, to build villages along the rivers, along the creeks. This creek right here, Salem Creek, flows into the Muddy Creek. The Muddy Creek flows into the Yadkin. The Yadkin flows into the Atlantic. So we connected to the world by way of the creeks. By way of the creeks. When you put your hands and your feet in the creeks, it heals you. That's what our community needs. We need to be healed. Mama Earth knows it all. It knows the pain. We don't have to do all of the graphics, technology. You talk to the earth. Our ancestors will tell you. We recently had people come here from across the country, and they said they felt the spirit of the ancestors. And that's my time, people. I love y'all. Peace.
Anyone else? Okay. Come on. Come sit right here. Come sit right here. Burning words, burning words. Come on. Come first. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Good evening, everyone. I was one of the ones who swam in the creek, Salem Creek, when I was a little boy. So I know the essence of what my brother was talking about. I grew up in this community. I lived here for, I think, Happy Hill Gardens. My mother moved in Happy Hill Gardens in 1951 when they first opened up the projects. We moved from Bailey Street, which is on the other side of Wartown. It was a place of love. It was a place of fellowship, and it was a place of unity. We were especially happy to move into the projects. The projects are not what they used to be. They became other than what they were established to be. I've lived here for over 50 years of my life. I traveled the world, but I came back. And one of the first persons I met coming back and trying to establish a place to live in Happy Hill was Miss Maurice Johnson. She owned the property at the bottom of Alder Street. I was a part of the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association. I am now. I was a part of the Happy Hill Senior Citizen Club. I was a part of the Happy Hill Community Reunion. While being a part of the Happy Hill Community Senior Association, I met Miss Johnson. And I was moving from Greensboro, and she said she had a place that she wanted to rent out. And I was in the market for a place. And she said, oh, but it's over in Happy Hill, I don't know. And that made my heart jump because it was right at the place that I grew up. And I loved it, and I stayed there for 12 years, Miss Johnson? And we had a wonderful time, we had a wonderful relationship. And I just wanted to say that this is a beautiful community. This effort of restoring the cemetery, I live right across the street in the projects on Free Street, right there on Free Street where they're building the homes now. That's where I grew up, right at the edge of the cemetery. I wasn't brave enough to walk through the cemetery on many occasions because it was under disrepair. But eventually we cut a path from Baltimore Street to Diggs Elementary School. So I did have the opportunity to walk through this cemetery. A lot of history was established over here. I met a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends that I grew up with. Some of them are in the audience today. But I'd like to say I appreciate all the work that's been done, all the efforts that has been displayed, all of the people who supported the efforts of getting this cemetery back up to the original purpose that it was designed for. Tonya's done a great job. She's the president of the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association. I'm the treasurer of the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association. We have other board members who have participated in this project also. So I'd just like to say thank you, and you're talking to a resident of Happy Hill, a lifelong resident of Happy Hill, and someone who loved the area and is always trying to do things to improve this area. Thank you very much.
Kelly?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Easton, and I felt like I wanted to share, but then decided not. And then Ibn just opened up the gate, and so I wanted to just follow up on what he shared. In terms of restoration, and in terms of what Tonya shared in terms of reclaiming the land, it is very important for us to know our history. There are certain things that our ancestors, lessons that our ancestors have for us. And when we take the time to study it and we preserve it and we pass it on, then we're able to build our communities in ways that are more promising for our youth. And so I believe that all the work that has taken place is truly a beginning. The beginning of a movement that I'm a part of, along with Tonya and Ibn, around being better ancestors. And when we are being better ancestors, than we think 7 generations have had. And I believe that this work that has been done to this point, my hope and my prayer is that we will use this to nourish the work that's needed to truly reclaim this land. Reclaim this land for the people who tilled this land, for the people who built on this land, who raised their families on this land. And so if we're gonna use history, not only to just study it, to know about it, but use it in order to inform our strategies, the way we do community development, our politics, the way that we raise our families. There's a lot to learn. And so my prayer and my hope and my work is to support the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association. They have dreams for this land. They have a mission for the people. And for all of us who are gathered here, I would hope that we would advocate, we will stand behind them, and that we will support their mission every step of the way. And I know that they work hard, and the families that have put in the work to make this day possible have worked hard for us to be here in this moment. But I would encourage us to see this as the beginning and to really get behind the efforts to reclaim this land for the generations that came before us and for their generations moving forward. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Seth the Joiner. I'm a descendant of joiners here in Happy Hill Cemetery. Brian Bonner is looking at me. You're also looking at me, Ms. Sheffield. You've seen me on email. I just want to say publicly thank you for your work, both of you and Miss Maurice Pitts Johnson. It's really important. I've been looking for my own family for 35 years, and it's thanks to work like this that my family and hopefully many others can be healed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Scippio. My name is Philip Carter, and I too have relatives that are buried in this cemetery. I've heard a lot of things said today, but there were a lot of things that was not said. I remember right across over that expressway there was restaurants. I remember when they began to build that highway. I remember when there was no highway and you came in the Happy Hill Gardens and I was a little boy, and I remember seeing Miss Johnson's father, Mr. Pitts, right down there in them coverall jeans, working on a house or working on the wall. I remember coming into Happy Hill, and there were roses, rose bushes, peach trees. It's one of the most beautiful places you could see in Winston-Salem at that time for African Americans. But then I remember something else. I remember the disinvestment, the lack of investing in the community was where it all began, to where the housing began to fall down, the people began to crumble, and then we began to say how bad it was. But it was a loving place. Every family that grew up in Happy Hill was like the sister and brother of another family. Went to school at Anderson High School. We used to run through there. Back there used to be a path, and we would run up under the expressway before it was completely built. But one place we always cherished was the cemetery. When we'd run through, we'd be quiet. And everybody that had somebody knew before the overgrowth came where a family relative was, whether it was a grandfather or aunt or uncle, cousin, what have you. I'm saying that to say this, as Tonya said and others have said before, we can come out here and commemorate and put up a plaque. That's beautiful. But what really is needed is each and every one of us finding a way to reinvest in this community, to ensure that its legacy for African Americans endure into longevity. That's what it's about. This is sacred ground. If you ever go to a funeral of someone who lived in Happy Hill, it's like multiple tribes come. It's always packed. Different families greeting and meeting one another, talking about the old days, talking about when we used to play here. And why is it like that? Because Africans, they were over at Salem College, moved over here, and they put their hands in the soil. They put their spirit in the community. That spirit was alive, and it's still alive today. And I hope you'll help Tonya and all those that have helped commemorate this day and bring back housing to the city. Help them to continue that. That's my ask of you today. Thank you.
One more.
Hello, Happy Hill. My name is Tiffany Leward. I am the director of a project, a special project that we're working on currently. I'm sure Tonya already invited you guys earlier. I was setting up our special event, hence my delayedness, so I will tell everybody sorry. But I wanted to make another note. I'm also a North Carolina School of the Arts graduate twice. I went there for acting in high school as well as filmmaking. Graduated, went to film, ran off to LA. And I came back to take care of my mother, who was ill at the time. Tonya's been hitting me over the head. She also went to School of the Arts. She doesn't talk about it much. She has a few degrees. And she was like, do you know Happy Hill? All of us at the school, right beside Happy Hill. In fact, actually on Happy Hill. And we had no idea. Those were the people that transparently were in our cafeterias, who were the least of those resolved, the least of those regarded, the least of those observed, who I loved because they knew I needed a certain type of food when I came in. I'm Jamaican and Guyanese, and I needed spices. And they would always customize a dish, not only for me, but for the vegan, for the pescatarian, for the special person who needed the special dietary concern with a smile on their face. One of our classmates actually married a man from Happy Hill. And we had no idea how amazing the community was, except through her eyes. She's currently a really important lawyer in Texas. He married up. He became an amazing legacy that we couldn't see, that she saw. Not only that, I came back from LA, and Tonya's like, Happy Hill, Happy Hill, Happy Hill. Bricks, 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 bricks. Do you know anything about this? And I said, Tonya, let me stop and look at it. She tricked me, guys. She brought me in during a senior class. Some of my seniors are here. She told me she needed me to teach technology to the elders. She was tricking both of us at the same time, transparently, because Tonya had decided she was making this movie. And she needed help. She needed Hollywood help. She couldn't make it with her DV cam she'd been running around with for years. But we're going to be using that footage, because thank God she got it. There's 100+ years of Happy Hills that's been underdiscovered. This gravesite is a mere portion. We're going to talk about it and so much more. Tonight, we're going to be doing a special presentation, a fundraiser. We are not making a community project on Happy Hill. We are making a Hollywood documentary on Happy Hill, and we invite all of you to come because Happy Hill needs to be told. It's older than Eatonville, Florida, for those in the room who understand history. I also work on a show called I Didn't Know, Maybe You Didn't Either. I'm also BDOT's manager, which you guys saw yesterday at Juneteenth, right? And we work tirelessly on history, things we didn't learn in school, things I learned from my Caribbean heritage, things I knew because my father worked in the UN. I was privileged to know my history and know where my ancestors came from my steps into school, which made me different. It made me able to be a little more resilient. And everybody deserves that resiliency. And on top of it, the South has far too long been ashamed of their truth. And there is actually truth and transparency. And it is time for us to move forward in understanding that we don't have to be victims, because we are not. We are not our ancestors, and neither is anyone else, right? We are better than that. And it's time to move forward with the truth so that we don't continue to make the mistakes. The baby boomers know the systems are broken. We need the doors open. We need the cliff notes. We don't want our kids to live in another demise that we could avoid. So I'm asking all of you, any of your friends, any people who know anybody, please get in contact with Tonya. Please get in contact with our producers. We'll present today at Millennium. Greg Carlisle has been so gracious to us. Y'all know he's gracious to everybody. And we appreciate him giving us a space tonight to not only fundraise for Happy Hill, to create an opportunity, because this is not a one-time thing. We're hoping to create return income so that we too can invest with this film in Happy Hill. This is not let us just come take your story. This is not trauma porn either. This is not another gentrification story if everybody makes it different. So I thank you guys for allowing me in. I thank my elders for teaching me their stories. I thank the kids. I also spent time with the kids. I thank the kids for allowing me in. And I look forward to sharing your story and your truth and your power, because it's important not only that you share your story, but that you write your legacy down. Not just people who have crazy legacies or are married, powerful people, but for your family, for your seeds, for your grandchildren who cannot see you. It is important that you give them not only a guide, but the cheat sheet. We've been cheating for years and we ain't cheated right yet. Thank you.
And now it's going to be time to unveil the marker. I'd like to invite Ms. Maurice and her family members and our elected officials to go by the marker, and Happy Hill Association, your board members if you're here. And we're just going to unveil this beautiful marker.